This channel is dedicated to reporting true crime and paranormal cases from Australia. If you want to hear more cases like this, hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you're notified when I upload a new video. I would like to make a disclaimer that I mean no disrespect to anyone talked about in this video. This video is intended for educational purposes only. This is the case of the young pilot Frederick Valentich, who disappeared without a trace in 1978 and is still missing today. Frederick was born in 1958, and his passion in life was flying. He wanted to be a commercial pilot. He attended the Sale Air Force Base and did some training there. He had clocked 150 to 200 hours of flying. He applied to be in the Australian Air Force, but was rejected because of his poor flying history, which included purposefully flying into clouds and failing all 5 of his exams twice. On the morning of his disappearance, it was a sunny summer day.
I will never forget that morning of 21st of October 1978 when I was at the breakfast table and Frederick came in. It was a bit moony sometimes, but that particular day it was very cheerful, and he looked out the window. What a glorious day to take a flight. That was the last time I actually have a contact with my son.
He started his day around 7:15 a.m. He had breakfast and got ready for work. Frederick worked at his day job in the suburb of Moonee Ponds at a disposal store. While he was working, his boss overheard him planning for the flight he was going to take that afternoon to King Island, which is a little island between Tasmania and Victoria. He'd done this flight a few times before, and he had told his work friends how excited he was. He was going over the procedures for the flight, making sure he knew exactly what to do with lights and landing, since this would be his first time flying over water at dusk. He said he was going to get crayfish from King Island for a dinner he would be having with his flying buddies, but there are conflicting reports saying that he was going to King Island to pick up friends, or that he was going to get crayfish to surprise his parents. At midday, Frederick left work to go to Moorabbin Airport. When he got there, he parked the car and sat in there for a little while and did some of his coursework, as he had gotten there a little early. He had been doing some flight training at Moorabbin Airport as well. He sat in the car for approximately an hour, then he went in to do his class. After class, he handed in his flight procedure to the briefing office, and then he went to get some dinner. According to his flight procedure, Frederick was supposed to take off from Moorabbin at 5:45 p.m, but he didn't leave until 6:19 p.m. At 6:10 p.m, the plane was being fueled by a maintenance man, who in 2012 contacted a man named Andrew Arnold. Andrew is the director and owner of the Victorian UFO Action Committee. Andrew was told by this man that Frederick removed the back seats from his plane. Fred didn't take off from Moorabbin until 6:19 p.m, which led this man to believe that he had gone to get the seats removed in between 5:30 and 6:15 p.m, but the reason for this is unknown and is also not a fact. Frederick took off for King Island at 6:19 p.m. Around 45 minutes into the flight, Frederick radioed into Melbourne Airport in Tullamarine to tell them that he was flying over Cape Otway and that everything was going to plan. Then only 6 minutes later, he radioed in again, asking if there were any other aircrafts in the vicinity at the time. Here's a dramatisation of the transcript that was released by the Australian Department of Transportation.
This is Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any known traffic below 5,000 feet?
No known traffic.
Seems to be a large aircraft below 5,000 feet.
What type of aircraft is it?
I cannot confirm. It's 4 bright, seems to me like landing lights. The aircraft has just passed over me at least 1,000 feet above. Is there any Air Force aircraft in the vicinity?
No known aircraft in the vicinity.
Seems to be playing some sort of game. He's flying over me. Delta Sierra Juliet, it's not an aircraft, it's...
Can you describe the aircraft?
As it's flying past, it's a long shape. Cannot identify it. It has such speed. It's before me right now, Melbourne.
How large would the object be?
Seems like it's stationary. What it's doing right now is orbiting. The thing is just orbiting on top of me. It's also got a green light and a sort of metallic, like, it's shiny on the outside. It's just vanished.
Is the aircraft still with you?
Say again?
Is the aircraft still with you?
Now approaching from the southwest. The engines are rough idling. The thing is coughing.
What are your intentions?
My intentions are to go to King Island, Melbourne. That strange aircraft's hovering on top of me again. It's hovering and it's not an aircraft.
Unfortunately, the original recording is nowhere to be found online. There is a lot of speculation that this isn't the complete transcript. Before this was made public, someone working at Melbourne Airport had said that they were speaking with Frederick for over 30 minutes and that the Australian government are not telling us the whole story.
He wasn't to the point where he was panicking, but he was genuinely concerned by what he saw. With what he saw, he was worried. He sounded confused. Then, as he described what the aircraft was doing, I became a little bit concerned too.
An author who studied this case has a friend who was a pilot at Moorabbin Airport, who said that the staff were approached by the Australian government, who told them that there were rumours of a UFO and they were not allowed to talk to the press or tell the people the plane's registration number. Just a few minutes after the last transmission, Melbourne Airport sent a light aircraft to go out and check Frederick's route. Nothing was found. Frederick's parents, who were waiting for him to come home, were worried. He was not home by the time he said he would be. Not much later than this, they hear on the radio that a plane had disappeared.
About 11:30 or midnight, Frederick wasn't at home. And then we heard on the radio that an aircraft went missing. And then two policemen called at the door. And they verified, yes, they said that aircraft, presumably was your son. It's an extent search and we don't know what's happened to him.
They searched the waters over a span of 5 days and covered 5,000 square miles. There was no sign of a crash anywhere, no parts from the airplane. The Cessna that he was flying was built to float in the event of dropping into water, and it was also equipped with a distress signal that gets sent out in the event of a hard impact, and no such signal was received. Within 24 hours of the disappearance, this has started to make national headlines and the media was covering it heavily. People started to come forward with reports of having seen strange lights in the sky on the night of Frederick's disappearance.
I looked up and I saw this lime green light, about 1,000 to 2,000 feet above the aircraft. So we sat there and watched it for a few seconds, and the green light got closer to the plane. I said, that plane is coming down pretty steep. I said, on a 45-degree angle. I said, I think it's going to crash.
An amateur photographer named Roy Manifold, taking photos of the sunset. Although he didn't know it, the pictures captured some odd anomalies which were proven by experts not to be the fault of the camera or the negatives. Here are the pictures. See in the first two photographs. There are little glowing orbs that move throughout the first and the second picture. And the third picture, you can see a dark object with which professional photo analysis, they were able to tell that this object was in the picture about a mile or 1.3 kilometres away from the camera, moving at an incredible speed, and it was made up of metallic materials. There are many skeptics that don't believe Frederick had a run-in with a UFO, so they offered a few different theories as to what they think might have happened, so let's talk about them. The first theory is that some people believe Frederick may have ended up flying his plane upside down, and the lights he was seeing were lights from his own plane reflected in the water. Professional pilots say that this couldn't have been possible, as Frederick's Cessna plane had a gravity-fed fuel system, which means within 60 seconds of him inverting the plane, the fuel would have been blocked from going into the engine. and the known transcript between Frederick and Melbourne Airport lasts more than 6 minutes. Even his father said that he would definitely have known if he was flying his plane upside down, and other pilots saying the carpets would have come off the floor. The second theory is that Frederick was seeing an illusion of a tilted horizon, that he was seeing Venus, Mars, Mercury, and the star Antares, which apparently would look something like what Frederick was describing. The third theory is that Frederick committed suicide. However, all of Frederick's friends, family, colleagues, and doctors said that Frederick was a perfectly happy guy. Also, if Frederick had purposely crashed his plane, they would have found evidence of a crash, or the distress signal would have been sent out. There are a lot of other theories, and I encourage you to do your own research. I have my own theory on what might have happened, and I'll get to that shortly. Something else worth mentioning is that Frederick was obsessed with UFOs. He had journals and research. He had claimed to have even seen one before. He mentioned in his journals that he was worried aliens would attack him. One thing people may not know about this case is that this was not an isolated incident. Similar disappearances have happened in this area several times before and after Frederick. Less than 12 hours after Frederick disappeared, on the 22nd of October 1978, a plane with 9 passengers disappeared over the Solomon Islands. No trace of that plane was ever found. 40 years earlier, on the 19th of October 1934, a mail plane called Miss Hobart also disappeared without a trace over Bass Strait. It was reportedly one of the most powerful planes in Australia at the time. There were some men working nearby that day. They usually would have seen the Miss Hobart plane flying past them, as they had many times before, but this time, they say the sound of the plane engine just stopped abruptly. One of them told the newspaper, "We often saw the mail plane pass. We expected it as usual to come around a point of Mount Oberon, but instead, the engine sound ceased abruptly and we saw nothing. We're positive it was the sound of an aeroplane engine because it was so still and the sky was clear and sunny." On the 2nd of October in 1935, another plane called the Loiner went missing without a trace, only minutes before it was supposed to land. The Loiner radioed in minutes before landing to say that they were about to land, but they never did. Some items were recovered from this plane, which suggests it had crashed at colossal speed, but this seems unlikely, considering how close they were to landing. There were no bodies recovered, and no explanation was given. My opinion is that a UFO abducted Frederick. However, I have a feeling that this may have been what Frederick was hoping for, or at least hoping to see more of what he had alleged to have seen in the past. As we talked about earlier, Frederick had a very big interest in UFOs. Given the amount of disappearances in the area, Frederick could have intentionally set out to try and find evidence. What do you think happened to Frederick Valentich? Let me know in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this, remember to subscribe to the channel and like and share the video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.